Good morning, my name is Marissa and I am the creator behind Missouri Makes. You can find me on Instagram as Missouri_Makes and you can find me on Ravelry as Missouri Makes. Did you see me hesitate there just a little bit? I was trying to figure out if I was doing it correctly. Today is just kind of, I don't know what kind of video you would call this. I thought about calling it just kind of like a journal. Because today is October 4th, 2021, and over the weekend, today is Monday whenever I'm recording this, and over the weekend I swatched for a sweater, and it's a sweater that I've been looking at for a little while and just haven't bought it yet. But yeah, what it was is this designer that I've been looking at and her designs and stuff. I found out that if you put 3 of her patterns in the cart on Ravelry, you get one of them for free. And so I waited and ended up getting 3 of her patterns that I've been looking at. And the one I wanted to start on first, I didn't quite have the yarn that I wanted to do it in. So I decided to go to another one that I had purchased in her designs. And I think the yarn that I have is kind of a perfect fit for what it is. Her name is, I want to say Jennifer Steingass. I've never knit one of her patterns, but I hear a lot about her patterns and everybody loves them. Yes, Jennifer Steingass. And I will pop up a picture here somewhere. The sweater that I am working on is called Forestland. And it is, as you can see in the picture, it's like a mustardy yellow. And I think it's either a taupey or just a mocha brown for the color work here. I have never finished a knit sweater. I have started a couple and either frogged them or just threw them in the back because I guess I don't have enough confidence in myself to know that I can make something like that. And so while I'm knitting, I doubt that it's going to work. And finally I got the nerve up and I am confident and actually really excited about this sweater, and I thought that I would take you along with me on my journey. And so whether it fits me the way I want it to fit or not, I'm going to make the sweater all the way through the way the pattern states to see how it fits on my body type. And then after I get done with that, I'll be able to take notes and figure out what I would have wanted to change to make it fit the way, for my body type, to make it fit the way I want it. And so I'm never, like I told my husband, I am never going to figure out what works for me if I don't just knit and figure out, you know, I'm going to have some projects that just doesn't work for me, whether it's the way I knit, the way the pattern's written, or I just chose a pattern that was not flattering for my body type. You know, I'm not going to know until I just experiment. And that's what this is I chose a pattern that I hear highly of, and I'm going to knit it to see how it works up for me. And I apologize for the messy hair. It's Monday and I just really don't care. But I chose yarn. It looks funky, but I think it's just the way it's skeined up. I think I've showed this to you before. It's called Nako. There it goes. There's a little bit of a glare because the wording on it is a gold color. Nako Vals. And I don't know how much it originally cost, but I got it clearanced out for $1.47 a skein. It is 100% premium acrylic, and it's from a different country, so I don't know. On here, it doesn't state that I can tell what weight it is. I'm assuming the way it looks like a DK to me. And so that's what I considered it to be whenever I worked this up. My pattern that I'm working is calling for a DK weight, and it calls for 2 colors. I've got this color and here it is, this color. And this is just like a silvery taupe color, and then we've got the mocha brown. And I don't know if you'll be able to get these still, but the color number on this one, it says 2000, and the color number on this one says 1182. I don't know, that's all I can see for names. If there is any other name, it's nothing that I can pronounce. And they are 100-gram skeins, 240 meters, and they don't have yards on here, is what I'm used to. But I think 240 meters is around 260 yards. And so that's what I am going off of. The size that I'm making size F. And if I'm not mistaken, it takes either 1,400 or just over 1,400 yards of the main color. And then the contrasting color, I'm not sure how many yards it takes. But I went ahead and swatched. Yes, I swatched. I'm trying to be a grown-up and do everything right with knitting. But it said to swatch in the round. That's why I have all of these ends. And I'll do a video tutorial on that sometime, on how you swatch like this in the round. But I took and swatched, and I used my contrasting color for my swatch because I am going to have probably just enough yarn to knit this sweater, and so I want to save as much main color as I can, and I've got plenty of the contrasting, so I went ahead and did the contrasting color, and that's what I've got here. And it said that the gauge, it's a paid pattern, so I'm not going to go into detail about the pattern itself, but the gauge is 20 stitches by 28 rows. And I managed to get the 20 stitches in a 4-inch circumference, but I didn't manage to get 28 rows. I got 26. And so that is something I'm going to have to be cautious about whenever knitting this. And because the rows are important, but I am more concerned about my stitch gauge over my row gauge. The row gauge I can keep track of easier while knitting than I can my stitch gauge right now, because like I've said in previous videos, I am a beginner knitter. I am coming up around the 2-year mark, I think, but I've not knitted a whole lot of items. I have just studied and watched videos and researched knitting more than I have actually knitted, and so I still consider myself a beginner. And so that's what this is, and I'll go ahead and show you my progress. Let me get this undone real quick, because something I'm trying, because I've not done a whole bunch of color work, something I'm trying that I've seen other people use is, what's it called? Metal Yarn Guide. I have never used one, but something that I would like to focus on, concentrate on, is color dominance. And in order to do that, I have to have the yards to stay in a specific order for it to be one color dominated over the other one. And whenever I knit or crochet, either one, I get so wrapped up in just knitting or crocheting that I don't focus on how my yarn is sitting in my hands. And so I don't want to get working and then after getting a couple rows done realize, oh, my yarn switched places while I was working, and then have to tink it back. And so I'm trying out a metal yarn guide, and so far it's working. I think that I'm going to have to get my pliers out and kind of mess with it a little bit because my yarn keeps getting caught. The tension in it seems to be good. I see. Oh, that's what my biggest fear was, because when I knit, I tend to wrap the yarn and work it off because, especially through the winter, my hands tend to get dry, and when my hands get dry, I can't grip the yarn very well, and so that's what I was afraid of with this, was not being able to keep my tension. But it seems to be working just fine, and so I will give a review on that a little bit later. This is the name brand of the yarn guide that I'm using, and if I can find it online, I will link it below, as well as the yarn. If I can find it online, I'll link it below. I don't know, like I said, I don't know what the regular cost is, but I mean, at least you can be able to look at it. This is what the yarn guide looks like. I'm wondering if I take my pliers and bend them up, if that would help with guiding the yarn better. Because right now, you can see, it sits flat on my finger. I don't want to mess it up, but it needs to be tweaked just a little bit. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll work on it and then let you know. This is the sweater. I have gotten not much done. I swatched Saturday, and by the end of the day Saturday, my swatch was dry, and I was able to cast on the ribbing. And it was late in the day, so I wasn't able to finish the ribbing. I finished the ribbing Sunday morning, and then when we got home from church, I put some distance on the German short rows, and now I have officially started on the color work. You can see there's only a couple rows done. The color work confused me. Like I said, I've never done color work in knitting, not to any extent, you know, not a whole lot. And so one thing that I seen was a block on the chart that said no stitch. Never heard of it. Don't know what you do with it. And I did a whole round of what I assumed a no stitch was. And what I assumed a no stitch was you just slip the stitch over and you keep going. Because it's a square, it's supposed to be a stitch. I'm assuming that you don't knit the stitch, you just slip it and go. And there's not many videos on YouTube on what you're supposed to do with a no stitch. But there's explanations. And so I watched some videos, and the understanding that I have of it, what you're supposed to do, is pretend that that block isn't there. And so what I do is I glaze over that block and I continue knitting. I don't slip the stitch, I don't do none of that, I just continue. And so it seems to be working. My stitch count seems to be good. I had to take back that whole row and try again. And when I tried again, everything was fine. But I have learned in the process of this, I have learned a new increase, which I think is really cool. It is an interesting one. It's not hard to do. Once you figure it out, it's just like, it's easy. But whenever you first read what you're supposed to do, you're like, okay, what? And way I did it was I did each step slowly to make sure my brain was processing it right, and did it. And I did a whole round like that, slowly doing it to make sure I did it right, and counting my stitches, and you know. And then after that, whenever it told me to do an increase, I sped through it like it was nothing. I just, you know, so I got it done. And I think, yeah, I'm on round 3 of the color work, and I think there's like 40 rounds of color work. I'm not sure. And so once I get through, what I figure I'll do is, today is Monday, but I'm going to be posting this video on Wednesday. And so each week on Wednesday, I will give you a bit of an update on what this sweater looks like, which makes me, it kind of puts it in my brain that I have to actually do something with it. I can't just let it sit, because I have put it online that I am doing this. And so I'm hoping that it makes me feel responsible to have to get it done, because I do want the sweater. I do want to say that I have finished a sweater. I want to see how it fits and figure out things like that. But I start to doubt myself as I'm working on whatever it is I'm working on, and then I just put it up, because whatever reason it may be. So I'm hoping with putting this out here, it'll help me kind of keep myself in check. But yeah, I thought that I would kind of take y'all along and do this kind of weekly, and you can kind of see the progress on it, and I can give you my notes and opinion on the sweater, because Jennifer Steingass is a well-known designer, knitwear designer, and I have not heard one bad thing about her patterns. Everybody loves them, and so I wanted to try it out for myself and see what it was like. And there's some podcasters that I watch that are currently working on a sweater by Jennifer Steingass, and I just sit there and watch them, and I'm like, oh, that looks so pretty. I gotta make me something, you know? And so I finally put it forward, and this is the first one that I'm gonna do, and then I am going to dye yarn, because I think they all call for DK. I'm going to dye some yarn and do another one, and then I'm going to order some yarn, because I have a specific yarn that I'm looking at that I want to make for another sweater. And so little by little, we'll get all three of these sweaters made, and you can kind of get a gist of what they are, how they fit, and you can kind of see if you want to knit it yourself. And so thank you for going on this journey with me, and I hope you enjoy them. If you do, if you enjoy these videos, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you Friday.